The current state of men, broken down by Krystal Ball, and wait for it, I know I mess up names all the time, Saagar Enjeti. I think that's how you say it. I'm just going to go with that. This is episode 1936 of the Joe Rogan Experience. We're sitting at 47 minutes, 32 seconds, and they just get into the state of men, what's going on with men, and how they've been under attack, so to speak. Really, really enlightening part of the episode. This is actually a great episode. I'm not usually into these political types when they come on, but actually way, way, way more broad of subject matter than I thought there'd be. They talk about Bigfoot. They talk about all sorts of stuff. It's great. Let's get into it. Coolest high performance coach in the world. Subscribe.
Your goals of wealth creation that has been held out to you of like what is at the core of being a man. It's a very seductive story. It's a very seductive story.
Why is it all connected to the manscape? The manscape and crypto and NFTs.
Because it all is this whole.
It's interesting. Some of the most viral content that we've done in like the last several months is just problems with men. Like we did this video. It's like the problems of boys and men with the author Richard Reeves, who's actually fantastic. He wrote a great book on this.
You'd have a great conversation with him, actually.
Viral. And he talks a lot. He's like, look, I understand. He's like, I'm not an anti-feminist. He's like, what we are talking about, though, is in the last 2 decades, we've had a crisis amongst young men. And something we talk about on the show is what Krystal's getting at with the decline of the American dream, like the idea that you were going to do better than your parents. And that's just not really true anymore. Even if you went to school and you have a shit ton of student debt, even if you're working class in terms of wage growth, upward mobility, people who are graduating from high school who are men and working class having much more trouble actually finding a mate. So there's a big college imbalance right now where a lot of men are dropping out of college. They no longer feel accepted, and you're reaching almost 60-40 splits of women and men in college, especially who are graduating. A lot of women who have college degrees don't actually want to date somebody who doesn't have a college degree. And so there's this big imbalance in the dating market. And then also amongst single men, you see a big decline in lifetime wages. But what really makes me really sad is the drug overdose numbers, and they die much earlier. They're much less likely to exercise, much less likely to fulfill a stronger life. And that's what gets to the charlatanism of like being able to buy into the charlatan, signing up for some MLM scheme that you might see online, buying crypto. By the way, you're looking at a crypto victim. I lost $5,000 on BlockFi, got fucked out by that.
There's a lot of men that feel by their very existence that they're bad.
Yeah.
It's a big cultural
problem. This thought of toxic masculinity and the things that they're attracted to, they think they've been told are stupid or, that they're evil or, there's a thing about being a man in this world today that I think we have to look at all human beings as just human beings.
Yeah.
And you can't help that you were born a man, and you can't help the things that you enjoy. Like if you enjoy going to football games, you enjoy getting loud with your friends. This idea of toxic masculinity. It's like, yeah, there's toxic aspects of men, and that's real. That's a reality of being a male human being. If you look at the history of war, it's all started by men. Men did all of it. Men do all the raping. I had this guy on the podcast once. It was hilarious. He goes, actually, statistically speaking, men get raped more than women do. I go, yeah, by other men, you fucking idiot. I go, it's not packs of cheerleaders raping football players. The fuck is wrong with you? The problem is 100% men. That's the problem with manosphere, is that there's grifters in the manosphere that aren't actual real men.
Yes.
And by real men, I mean they don't have resolve. If you took them on a hike, they would get tired. They would sit down. You would have to leave them behind. They're not. The word tough is a word, but it's like oh, you're tough. No, mental toughness is fucking important. It's a really important quality of life, and it's been diminished to this thing that's like a part of toxic masculinity ideology, and it's.
Well, and this is where, the Andrew Tates of the world come in and they perform this just caricaturish, ridiculous, masculine, whatever they're doing. And then also maybe is a sex trafficker. We'll find out. We'll see what happens there. But it again speaks to the fact there used to be a really clear sort of cultural narrative, right or wrong, about what it was to be a man. And at the core of that was being a provider, right? For women, it was like, it was other things being like a mother and a nurturer and like the way you look. For men, it's like about the wallet, right? The pocketbook. And then, so I think when we've had an assault on the middle class, on the working class, where it becomes so much harder to be able to fulfill that cultural narrative of what it is supposed to be a man. I think that's been, this is as a woman, but from my external perspective, I think that's been really, really devastating. And I
don't. So true. I've always had trouble. When I first met my wife, my now wife, I didn't make as much money as her, and I would always be so disappointed in myself, so down on myself. And then it took her to actually tell me. She goes, because I was always upset that I wasn't a provider. And I send this message to any guy listening. She, maybe you're with somebody, but she was like, "There's more to being a provider than money. Like that is one aspect of a provider." She's like, "But you provide emotionally." She's like, "You provide support. So you provide care. You provide love." And it really kind of took me back. And it's true. Like, you may not be in a position right now as a guy where you're making all sorts of money. You may not be like Andrew Tate and you're taking jets and you're doing all this amazing stuff. But like, you are still a man and you are still of value. Like, it's not just the material things that make you of value. There's so many more things in you. And I don't even know you, but I know that there's so much more to you than just how much money you make. It's funny. Somebody made a comment in the comment section and they said, "Are you really poor, or are you only poor like in a rich man's world?" And I took that to mean like in this world that's like focused on material, hyper focused on material and money, you are made to feel poor. But if you were in a place where, it was a tribe of hunter-gatherers and like everybody just played their part, you'd never feel poor. And all of your attributes that you have, your emotional attributes, your humor, your intelligence, all of that would shine through and you'd be really somebody of value. And I invite you to not have to move to the forest or the jungle to experience that. Like, just experience that now. Like, I think a lot of times as men and as people, we don't write things down. I talk about this often. You should write down, like, if you're feeling this way, if you're feeling like you're not a provider, you're not of value because you're a man, you're bad, like whatever, like all that bullshit, write down the things that are good about you. And if you don't know, ask somebody that you love, that loves you. Ask them all the good things about you. I bet you, even if you were a millionaire, they wouldn't be like, "And you're rich." That'd be the last thing they'd put down. The last thing. They wouldn't put down your job. They wouldn't put down the amount of money you have. They would put down who you are as a person, your leadership, your vitality, your tenacity, your perseverance, your sensitivity, your strength, your vulnerability, your humor, like all the things that make you up as a person. Like, that shit makes you worthwhile, man. Don't get it confused. It's not the money that does it, It's and you know what else is funny about that clip? Just to move into something a little funnier. When Joe brought up going on a hike, believe you me, if you haven't watched this podcast, the guy that he's talking to, this Saagar guy, he's not getting through a hike. I 100% guarantee that guy is the guy that he's talking about, that you'd have to leave behind. And that's all good. He's still a man. He's just an out of shape man. That's all good. I'm a little out of shape right now. It's like, I don't know. Like, there really is a culture nowadays. And it's like, we talk so much about toxic masculinity, but we don't talk about the toxicity towards masculinity. You ever notice that? We don't talk about that as much because there's a lot of that going around. Because I remember I even made a video talking about toxic masculinity and how Joe Rogan, he was saying, he's like, what you see that's toxic masculinity is usually just like the losers of the group that are just standing out more. But like more often than not, you know, like guys who were just regular guys, just guys who were just, you know, football, they're straight, they like girl, this, that, like those regular guys. Not to say like if you're gay, you're not regular, but you know what I mean. You know, just the regular guy who we're so down on nowadays. I don't know, man. That guy is not toxic. You're not toxic. Like Andrew Tate says something about like there's a group of gentlemen, a large majority of gentlemen that don't want to wear dresses and don't want to paint their nails and, you know, don't want to get all feminine. And also on the other side, they don't want to bang a bunch of chicks and they don't care about driving flashy cars and they don't care what people think about them. They're just guys. They're just regular dudes who just work every day. Like that's what a man is. Like if that's you, you're a man. If you're working every day, you're working every day, you're nice to your mom, maybe you could see her more. You got brothers and sisters and you're good by them and you're good to your friends and you eat pizza on the weekend. You're a man. Don't let anybody, don't let Harry Styles confuse you, but then also don't let David Goggins confuse you. Don't let Jocko confuse you because you're not 240 pounds, built like a brick shit house, ready to take, like, you know, doing jujitsu every day for 2 hours a day. Don't let that confuse you. You're still a guy. You're still a man. You're still worthwhile. I don't know, man. You know, you're sensitive. It's all good. Be sensitive. It's all good. Don't let these peacocks of men, you know, the Harry Styles, the Sam Smiths, the Will Smiths, the Rock, David Goggins, Jocko. Don't let these guys confuse you on what a man is. You're a man. You are you. And I think that's a message that we don't get enough of because of the way things are set up. You know, we're set up that the algorithm is showing us Goggins and Jocko. We're set up so the media is showing us Harry Styles and Sam Smith and all these guys. We're set up, like we're getting set up here, you know? And on either side of that spectrum that I'm mentioning, we're getting torn away from who we actually are. We get pulled over and we, you know, I'm sure there's probably hundreds of guys in jiu-jitsu right now that don't want to do jiu-jitsu, but Rogan's always talking about it and I should learn this and that, and they don't want to do it, but they're doing it. And on the other side, I bet you there's a bunch of guys painting their nails and shit, doing all sorts of shit like that, and they don't want to do that either. Don't be confused, man. Don't let these people confuse you on what a man is. You're a man. You wake up every day, you keep your integrity intact, you're good to your friends and family, you're a man. I don't know. But yeah, definitely a great episode. Definitely a great episode. I didn't think I would like these two at all, especially when I heard this lady's voice for the first time. I was like, I'm checking out of this, but I got a job to do, so I listened to the whole thing almost. And you know what? She's bang on with a lot of stuff she says, and so is Saagar. They're actually amazing. So I'm actually gonna look into what they're doing on YouTube, what they're doing on Substack, and you should watch this episode. The link's in the description. I'm out.